You're listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson, the podcast that tells you what it really takes to build a business and the simple steps to get you there. I'm determined to share with you the reality of easy, simple business marketing tips to make passive income so that you can start making money online. Making Money Online is sponsored by Nicola J. Rowley PR, helping entrepreneurs and brands get visible through strategic storytelling. If you're serious about being seen and impacting the lives of others, harnessing the power of PR is the best way to grow and scale your business. Visit njrpr.com for more details and read Nicola's best-selling book, The Power of PR. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. And thank you for listening week in, week out. I get so many messages from you all saying, oh, I love this episode. And I've just listened to your number 3, which was over a year ago. And I really enjoyed it and it really made sense. And I love hearing from you. So thank you to those people that do tell me what they're thinking, because sometimes you feel like you're doing these things, especially with a podcast, because I'm so used to lives where I can see people and now I don't see people. So it's lovely to hear from you. Today, we're going to talk about something that's close to my heart, which is self-worth and self-esteem. As any of you who have listened to my podcast about adversity and the things that happened to me when I was younger, which were kind of in the first few podcasts, then you'll know that I didn't have very good self-worth or self-esteem. I didn't even know what self-love was. So I brought somebody to have a discussion on this today. And that person is Serena Novelli, who helps people build confidence, self-worth and self-esteem as part of her business. So welcome to the podcast, Serena.
Thank you.
So the first thing I want to know is, you have really good self-esteem now. You're really confident. We see you online all the time. Was it always that way?
No. And I think you teach what you know, right? Mostly. So if I go back, so I'm in my mid-40s now, and I guess I didn't really discover my true core essence of confidence until I hit around 40. I was dabbling for a good decade in trying to find myself, but there was a time where I suffered with severe panic attacks and body dysmorphia to a point where I couldn't even leave my own home. So I had my eldest at just 18. I'd only literally just turned 18 when I had him. And so I hadn't had any life experience. I didn't grow up in a very good environment. My mum was an alcoholic. There was a lot of narcissistic behavior, where one minute she would build me up, the next minute she would be knocking me down. So my self-worth was really low. And I had, people would always say I was the clown, because I was always craving attention, but the right attention, but any attention for me was quite good at the time because I just needed a bit. So I haven't always felt like it. And I've had to really work on myself purposely, because my second child is a daughter, and I caught her at about 3 years old. So I would have been late 20s when she was about 3. And I caught her in the mirror mimicking my actions. And I was horrified. Yeah.
What caused, if you even know this, what caused your body dysmorphia? I
think it's weird, because obviously I grew up in a time where there was no social media. We had the magazines, and we had just free channels for when Channel 4 came out, or so we didn't have many channels on the telly either. So I'm really not sure, but I think it was, when I do inner work, I always go back to my mum and how my mum was with her body, but also the things that she would say to me about mine growing up. I was very petite. I was 2 months premature when I was born. So I was always really tiny. And they used to say things like, oh, you could slip down a drain pipe. And my dad would call my boobs fried eggs, oh, you've just got some fried eggs, you don't need a bra, and things like that as I was growing up. So I think it's just the words that were used around me, and they weren't necessarily used
in a bad way.
No, they were being affectionate, but it was just the way that I perceived things. And then obviously at school, I would see the other girls and they all looked so confident, and I wasn't in the popular scene. I was grungy, black lipstick, and just sitting at the sidelines being quiet. So I think it stemmed from there. Yeah, definitely.
For those of you that don't know, body dysmorphia is when you see something completely different than other people see. And it doesn't actually matter whether you're perceived as beautiful from everybody else. You will never see it that way when you have body dysmorphia. I have lots of people, friends who have it. And it can really, really wreck your self-esteem and turn you into a hermit a lot of the time, because it doesn't matter what you do, you won't feel comfortable being around other people.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You had this and you had low self-esteem. It's interesting that you say about words, because I actually think that small words that people mean in banter, especially when you're a child, can massively stay with you. I had this with Albert, who is my sort of smallest son. I used to weigh myself every day. And then when he was about 2, he was weighing himself. And then when he was about 3 or 4, he was saying that he was fat. And we were starting to worry that he actually cared so much about being skinny. And there was only one place that could have come from, because he didn't have access to TV, magazines, all of those things. It could only come from me and what I was doing. And so that put a stop to that pretty quickly. I know how much little tiny things and things that people say can stay with you and can cause trauma, even when they don't mean it and that isn't their intention. It still can. So with you, what made the change? Your daughter was born and you were like, okay, this can't continue. How did you get yourself out of the position you were in?
It was really hard, because I think, like, going back to what you were saying about Albert, it's funny how we're not making the changes for ourselves, but we're making them for somebody else. And it's not until you get to a certain stage within that development you realize, actually, I need to be doing this for me, right? Because all of the time you're doing it for somebody else, you're not fully in that experience. And I think that's where, like, I had suffered before. I tried different things, different diets, and I was 7.5 stone trying to lose weight. It was madness, right? Absolute madness. But I just didn't see what other people, the people that love me, my husband or whatever, saw in the mirror. So I had a few times where I'd made myself to the point where I thought I was going to die through the panic attacks. And it was through, like, I remember sitting in Burger King. Am I allowed to mention Burger King?
Yeah, you can.
I remember sitting in there with my mum. We had been Christmas shopping, and I took a bite of my burger. And I don't know why I thought it, but all of a sudden it just felt like everybody was watching me eat. And I just, like, I didn't want to be watched, and nobody, they were all busy doing their own thing, really. And that piece of burger stayed in my mouth for so long that my mum kept asking me, what's wrong? And the more she asked me what was wrong, it was building up my anxiety, and that, to the point where I nearly passed out in Burger King, and I had to literally be taken home, and I couldn't continue. I stayed in the house for a long time after that. I was afraid to go out. Like, I couldn't be speaking to you like I am now. There would be lots and lots of stuttering, lots of holding myself and trying to hide. And it took me a good few years to realize that it was all me. I had to be doing this for me. I could be doing it for my daughter and trying to do it for my daughter, but until I took radical responsibility as such, it wasn't going to change.
For those of you that have never had a panic attack, or have had panic attacks, and you feel like you are going to die, there's no other way around. Like, the level that and the pain that it can cause, like chest pain, and you can't breathe, and it's probably like you're going to die. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So thinking of, like, how can I stop that happening? Because if that happens time and time and time again, that you can't live with that.
No, it's really horrible. And you have to, everybody's different, but for me, I had to kind of get myself out of it by distracting myself with something else. So all of the time somebody is asking me what's wrong, it was making it worse, because I'm actively thinking about what's happening. So I learned the tactic to, when I felt the onset of it coming on, that I would take myself away into a quiet room, grab a book, and do something that I really loved, either colouring in or, just something that was going to distract me and calm me down and help me to start regulating my breathing, without me really focusing on what I was doing. And so I still use those tactics now. So if I walk into anywhere where there's lots of people, I will have used those tactics to calm myself down before I go. I use EFT tapping to calm myself. So you often see me just tapping, doing the karate chop, like underneath tables and things.
To be fair, I've just been watching Boy George do that on I'm a Celebrity. And
there you go.
Kind of mainstream now, hasn't he? Because
I don't watch it. So
yes, so he was tapping whenever he felt like an overwhelm or he was worried about doing a challenge, he was doing EFT tapping.
Yeah, it is really powerful because it's obviously realigning you, and just that motion of that tapping motion's calming as well. So I would do lots of that. My dad thought I was mad when I told him that I would become an EFT practitioner and told him what it was. He was like, "Are you crazy?" But it works for me, it works for many other people. So I found those kind of tools to use for myself. And then when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, my mum had just passed from cancer, so then my husband had got it, and I knew that all of a sudden I had to take responsibility for absolutely everything. The income coming in, how I just had a baby as well. My youngest wasn't even one, and how was I going to bring up a baby, work, do all of the things? And those tools came into their own really then, because that overwhelm that I felt, it gave me the confidence to be able to. I had to give up a whole business that I was earning really well with. I had to say goodbye to something that I loved and restart again, because I couldn't physically do what I was doing because my husband would be at home. So Love That Body Project was born because I decided that I love helping people, I was helping them in a different way with my past job. So this was going to be able to give me the focus to be able to support women who might be suffering with body confidence or issues themselves around their self-esteem, and I'd be able to help them the way that I'd help myself.
I don't know many women that have good self-esteem, if I'm honest. I think they can act like it, and there's normally something underlying. Like if you said to somebody, "Do you feel like you are a 10?" Like nobody ever does. Everyone's always like, "No, but I think I'm like a 5 or a 6," even people that are really confident. Do you think it's possible to up that and to start feeling amazing about yourself and about your body, even if there are things on your body that you would change?
Yeah, I do believe that. I believe that nobody can have self-love every single day of their life. Like, so you're not gonna instantly, I love myself, that's it, I'm the most confident being, and show up like that every single day, because things happen in our life, right? Our bodies change. As women especially, we give birth, our body shape changes, we might wake up with spots on our face and feel a bit yucky that day. So we can still love who we are as a person. And this is the thing, people will, when they think of self-confidence, self-love and self-worth, they think of the exterior, right? Because we've been taught that we should look and be a certain way. If we want to be successful, if we want to be showing up and looking like we're sexy, sexy is a certain image online.
And it's perpetuated online, even now, like in success. A lot of the people that are successful look a certain way. They're like size 6. Yeah. That the coaches that we see, they're very tiny. They ooze glamour. And in fact, somebody earlier this year put out a message that you won't be successful. You won't be as successful if you're not thin.
Which is ludicrous, right?
Coach said that. Yeah. And so it's no wonder that we have this idea of what we need to look like.
We're striving for that, and it's unachievable for most people, right?
Yeah,
it's literally unachievable. So self-love for me, and this is what I teach, it's inner work. So there's lots of somatic work going on. We're really working with the nervous system, but also it's around knowing that actually when you're feeling good, you don't always need to be a 10. Like that level 5, if that's your level of confidence, and that's you've then got radical self-confidence in yourself, you can still strive to work towards a higher number, and you can still do the inner work to get there. But not every day will you be at a number 5. Sometimes you might be at a number 8, sometimes you'll be at a number 3. But in that day, as long as you're showing up in acceptance for who you are in that moment, you're in radical self-love.
Yeah, and I think that's a tricky thing to achieve, like this acceptance of who you are. Yeah. And we need to, like I always say that self-confidence, when people say to me, "You're so confident," I never used to be. Like I was one of the least confident people you would ever meet. But somebody once told me to write down all of my flaws and all of the things I'm good at, and then decide to love myself with all of that as a whole package, not just the good things. Because if we only love the good things, then it's not going to take very much to derail us into not having any confidence again as soon as one person says something bad about us.
Yeah, and this is the thing as well. Lots of women especially will talk about like having babies, having like stretch marks, their bellies have changed and they don't like their tummies. And if you can do that inner work, and it's all it is rewiring your nervous system, right? So you'll have triggers, the same as with the anxiety and with the panic attacks. I had a trigger, so certain things would trigger me, it would cause me to panic. Then I would go into a meltdown and I would start to like think things that weren't true, because that's what I was doing with myself. So it took me a while to learn that actually if I breathe into it, if I feel what's really going on, what's underneath that a little bit more, what is causing this, what can I do to fix it in that moment? And that might have been just me getting that colouring in book out and colouring in and just taking 5 minutes just to be with myself and to breathe. But you can get to that level and you can understand exactly where you are. Whereas usually we're in our head thinking that person's thinking this about me, or I might have been confident 2 minutes ago. So that person's looking at my tummy and going, oh, she's fat. But actually, if I look at my belly now and I think, these stretch marks, they're like my tiger stripes. They're like the trophies of being able to give birth and having this powerful body. Then
it's just about how we perceive things. Nervous system is an interesting one. I've been reading about it recently, and how many of our health issues and the way we think are connected to this one part, this nervous system. And people never used to think of the nervous system as something that we can regulate and change, and cortisol levels and all of the rest of it, the vagus nerve and everything. But actually it's a huge thing, isn't it? And I've been practicing some of the methods of regulating that nervous system, and it does make a difference. They're just in tiny ways. Like if somebody says something bad about me online, you can feel the cortisol level rise. And so if you get that cortisol level down, regulate your nervous system, then what I used to do is write back. Now I can just move on without writing anything.
And you can just literally like work it. So it's more of a rational point of view, because we would usually, it's like the flight fight, right? We'd usually either run away or we'd fight back, because that's where we'd
will always be fight back.
But we can choose those fights, right? We can choose those fights. We don't have to if somebody's like, I sent you a few maybe a month ago, somebody sent me that email that had dissed me for being a mum and told me that I couldn't ever be anything because I was just a council estate mum of 5 that would amount to nothing. But I know my achievements. I know the work that I've been through. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to come out of my house. I would have been mortified or been hiding. Whereas now I was like, I'm going to show this to Lisa. This is funny. I like this.
Yeah.
In the world.
And you can start laughing at things, like start seeing things for what they are, which is never our issue and always somebody else's insecurity. And we can't fix everyone and we can't help everybody. But those people who choose to be around us, we can help. And that's what you do now in helping people to get their self-esteem back. Often I think you can have self-esteem and then something can happen to you which really knocks your confidence. I saw this during COVID a lot, where people had great businesses, really good self-esteem, they knew who they were, and then because of the pandemic their business failed, or things didn't go as well as they wanted it to, and then their confidence was knocked, and we came out the other side, and it took real work for them to get back to who they were because their self-esteem had gone down.
And I think it's also about the people that you surround yourself with, right? And how they view, if you're taking on other people's views. My husband and I, we did some couples coaching the other day, and it came up. It's the work that I do, but I was working with somebody, one of my colleagues, they were doing it with us. And it came to a point where we had to share our desires, fears and loves within. I mean, there was lots of tears because it's really emotional what we're going through at the moment. But when it came to the loves piece, my husband said that he loved that I never gave up, that no matter what I set my mind to, I would always strive to finish it. And that really, that's for me, he sees my core, because he knows it doesn't matter what's going to be thrown in my way. I'm going to keep getting back up because I believe in what I'm doing. And that's who I need to surround myself with, right? People
that see you
and see that.
Yeah, I think it makes a massive difference, like when people see you for who you really are, and also just being around people that are cheerleaders and who have your back and that are really there supporting you because they really want you to succeed. I think it can be difficult in this online space because we can surround ourselves with people who appear to be like that because they're following us, but actually they're just waiting for us to fall. And it's I've spent a long time this year creating my circle and knowing that I'm around people who genuinely wish the best for me, because I feel completely different when I'm around those people.
Yeah, exactly that. I love it. And and businesses are ever evolving as well. So what was happening during lockdown, for them, that might have been the push that they needed to come back out the other side, right? It may have changed slightly, but what they're building is going to be bigger and better and stronger because, you know, they've gone through that hardship and that learning curve that they needed to get to be where they are now.
So when you help couples, what do you help couples with?
So I help them with intimacy and connection. So I've been with my husband for nearly 30 years. You know, it can get a bit stale at times, right, in a relationship if you haven't got that intimacy and connection. So yeah, I started with the working on the confidence. I was like, right, I'm going to get into something a bit more juicy. Pretty much I'm a tantric sex teacher, and I work with couples who are wanting just to reconnect and rekindle their love, and it is really beautiful to see these couples.
Amazing.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah. What a great thing to know that you're waking up every morning and helping people in this way to reconnect and to get more self-esteem. If somebody's out there thinking, my self-esteem is rock bottom right now, and they want to connect with you, where's the best place to do that?
I can come over to Instagram and find me. Yeah. So I'm Serena Novelli on Instagram. So you just need to search me. And then I've got a link in my bio, which takes you to everything. So no matter whether you wanted couples coaching or if you wanted to work on your own self-esteem, there'll be links there for you to be able to find what's going on.
And I'm assuming that when it comes to things like rekindling the intimacy with a partner, a lot of that is connected to your own self-esteem anyway, and how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
It's all interlinked, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of my couples will come work together, and then they will continue that work individually because they realize as they're coming together the pieces that they need to work on more.
Yeah, are individual things.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for your advice today and for chatting about this subject. I'll definitely put your links in the show notes. I think it'll be really good. There's so many people that have confidence issues, and they need to up their confidence and self-esteem and have that radical self-love, because it's amazing when you believe in yourself and you know that you can do all of the things that you want to. So much of it is about the belief that you can do it, and then you can. Thank you for being here and showing us that. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Have an amazing day, whatever it is you're doing. And I'll be back next week with some more advice on making money online. Thank you for listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson. If you'd like to get hold of my guide to launching, go to lisajohnson.com/launch and let's get you making money online.